We had a good time.
Add any skill, any improvement to your human tool set, and get good enough at it to impress people. David Wong.
What are you doing, babe?
I'm studying for the ASA 114 Catamaran class. We're going to take a trip down to
Charleston,
and we're going to sail around Charleston Bay on a Voyage 440.
Awesome.
It will be, because this is the first time that we will be on a catamaran since we've been sailing monohulls all this time.
After 2 days of our ASA 114 class with Will Miller, where we practiced anchoring, jibing, and tacking, and motoring the two engines back and forth, Lisa and I chartered the boat for an extra day so that we could hone our sailing skills on the new catamaran. We really liked the way the catamaran sailed as opposed to a monohull. There was really no heeling at all throughout the entire trip, whether we were doing 6 knots against the current or 10 knots plus with the current. After we docked the catamaran for the last time, we took a tour of Charleston, toured the city market, listened to the street performers for a little bit, and got a steak at T-Bone's. All in all, it was a great trip, and we're really glad we took the course.
I'm here with Will Miller from Charleston Sailing School and American Sailing Association School in Multihull, Brokerage, that teaches sailing courses starting from basic keelboat through ASA 114. Is that right, or is it more?
Correct. We also offer 106.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hear that this weekend you had the best ASA 114 class ever. Is that right?
Well, we had the best students ever. Yeah.
Excellent.
We had a good time. We were out on the Voyage 440 with you and Lisa, and it was kind of light the first day. Some pop-up thunderstorms. Got some docking practice in, and then yesterday got out in the harbor and had 15 to 20, and we're tearing around the harbor and had a good time.
So a little bit about you. How did you end up getting started sailing?
My parents went to the Annapolis Boat Show back in the early 80s when I was still in diapers. Came home with a boat, knew enough to be dangerous. So we were weekend warriors for about 10 years, from my early childhood up until about high school.
Yeah.
And then we started chartering in the early 90s. We started going down to Tortola in the Bahamas. Jumped on a catamaran probably for the first time when I was 12 or 13 and did a week in Tortola. And ended up coming to school down here in South Carolina and was always around the water. I knew there was a better way of sailing. My parents were very trial by fire and essentially knew enough to be dangerous. So it was always this comedy of errors as a child, and I knew there was a better, safer way to do this. So when I was in school down here, I decided to take the ASA classes, and that's when I kind of started to transition from just knowing that I liked being on a boat and being an active passenger to wanting to assume the role of the captain and assume responsibility for the ship, and that all kind of evolved into working in the marine industry. I thought I might get my STCW license and work on a mega yacht or a sailboat, a charter boat in the islands, and fortunate would have it, I ended up getting an offer working right here in Charleston with the sailing school about a year out of college, and started teaching in '06, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So you started working here at Charleston Sailing School, right?
Correct.
And then how did you become the owner of the school?
So the original owners got the ASA franchise back in the early 2000s, and then he had 2 locations. He had Charleston and he had Miami. I went back and forth with him for a few seasons, and believe it or not, he met a girl that liked to sail. She showed up one day, and they hopped on one of the boats to take off, and went out for about a week, and came back and essentially said, "We're leaving. We're taking one of the boats and going cruising." So
and that was one of the boats that were running for
it
charters?
was one of the boats that was in the school at the time. So he wasn't on a charter with her, but he was, she was a friend or a girlfriend at the time, and she hopped on the boat, and they both decided they liked being on a boat together. So they essentially took one of the boats out of the fleet, started cruising a little bit, and then at the end of that season, he more or less called one day and just said, "I'm not coming back."
So is he still out sailing around? Or was
He is. The guy's name is Mark Montgomery. He ended up buying a Lagoon 420 on the East Coast. He shipped it over to Vancouver, did the inside passage of Alaska, all the way down to the Baja, came through the canal, came back into the Caribbean, did some cruising there. I think he sold the Cat, and last I heard, he has like a 60-foot monohull, so he went back to a monohull after the Cat.
So how has the company grown since you've taken ownership?
I took over in '08, and at the time, the economy was in a recession. I think the writing was on the wall for Mark. He saw it as a good chance to take off and go cruising. He had made money in a prior life doing something else. Definitely wasn't owning a sailing school. But I started as a one-man band in '08. I had one boat that I leased, and then I ended up just kind of gradually growing the sailing school. And there was a lot of demand for classes and live aboard programs, which we were offering. But there was also a lot of demand for bareboat charters, and nobody was offering bareboat charters between the Chesapeake and South Florida, really.
Wow.
So there's 1,000 miles of coastline that there wasn't a real legitimate operation. And I started offering bareboat charters the second year I was in business, so that would have been 2009 as the owner. And then we've kind of expanded with more private yacht charters, more bareboat charters. We started with some small boats. Now we've got boats between 25 and 50 feet. We've got 5 monohulls, 3 catamarans, all available for bareboat, captain charters, and lessons. And then as a complement to the bareboat charters, we added a couple of small power boats, and we rent those out for people to go run around Charleston Harbor as well. So that's kind of how the school has evolved into a charter business and sailing school. And then I've become more involved with the Multihull company as a yacht broker in the last 5 years. Initially, I was doing a lot of training for their new owners and deliveries. After 15, 20 deliveries on different boats, you really start to get familiar with different brands and makes and models and just design characteristics, so you can kind of speak to different build qualities and different design characteristics without necessarily having to sail the boat.
So the boats that you do have here, the power boats, are those basically just for like day charters, or do you
They
actually do power squadron courses or something?
We don't. It's something that we're starting to explore more. I think there's not as much demand for a certification.
Right.
South Carolina doesn't necessarily require any kind of boater's license, but the federal government's left that up to the states. And now more and more states are starting to require licensing or basic boater safety programs. I kind of wish it was a requirement. I think it would be a better way for us to vet our clients. Yeah. But if they show up and say they know how to drive a boat, we have to take their word for it, and they sign on the dotted line. So, but yeah, they're mainly just runabouts. Every once in a while we have to replace a propeller or get a couple dings and scratches. But for the most part, people, we instruct them on how to be safe. And the rest is, common sense. Yeah.
So for the Charleston area, is that pretty much just seasonal, or do you get that used year round?
We're really busy here in March. We hit the ground running with spring break in March. A lot of families come down. April, May is a real popular time of year to be down here. Summer's hot, but we get a lot of tourists, and then we stay busy right up through the end of October and into Thanksgiving. So December, January, February, we have some downtime. We do some deliveries, we take some vacation, and do some repairs and maintenance, haul the boats out and shine them up and make sure they're ready for battle March 1st.
Next time for the springtime.
Exactly.
All right, so since you do the sailing instruction and the chartering and the brokerage, you do quite a bit. Do you have a preference on like what you prefer? Just personally?
That's a good question. I still like teaching, even though I've been doing it for 10 years and I did it every day more or less for 5 years straight. I think at the end of that 5 years I was getting a little burnout, and I was ready to find some other avenues and just other ways to make some money or spend my time. But getting somebody out on a boat for the first time and teaching them a new skill and seeing them kind of light up is really cool. I really enjoy that, but I also get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people find the right boat. People come to me and they have an idea of what cruising is about, or they have an idea of what kind of boat they want, but you start walking through boats with them, or you go to a boat show and you hop on 5 or 10 different boats and point out some things, and it really helps people open up their eyes to stuff that they wouldn't necessarily pay attention to if you hadn't pointed it out to them.
Yeah, I know how that is. Since Lisa and we've been looking at boats now for more than 5 years and trying to figure out, okay, yeah, we like this, we don't like this, we want this build, we want this thing here and there. So it's when you first start looking, it's definitely nice to have somebody to say, hey, look at this. Maybe this isn't quite what you're expecting.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, really being a broker is part of the education process. It's education about market values and makes and models and build qualities and that sort of stuff. So it all ties together really well. And taking people out on charters, they're on vacation, they're happy.
Yeah, they're not paying attention.
Yeah, it's that's a cakewalk. As long as the sun's shining and the wind's blowing, I'm having a good day.
Right, easy day.
Yeah.
So since you've been here in the Charleston area for a few years, is there any advice for somebody coming through the Charleston area, just passing through, or somebody wanting to sail here?
Learn how to read your tide tables. Expect some wind. We've got a lot of current, we've got a lot of tidal range, we've got a lot of commercial shipping. So you've got to be, this is definitely the big leagues. We get a lot of people that come from areas like Charlotte and Atlanta. We have a big draw to the coast from those areas, even DC. I mean, a lot of Tennessee folks end up coming down here, and they've got a lot of good sailing experience. They understand rigging, they understand tacking and jibing, but you throw that all together here with the tidal range and the traffic and the current, and it throws some people, as proficient as they may be at sail trim and racing around the buoys or whatever their background is. This is a challenging environment, and that's what makes it a really good place to come and learn. I've done deliveries all over the world now, and I used to be intimidated going to a new area, not knowing what it was going to be like, and having a lot of experience here has definitely helped me out in South America and the Med, and the Caribbean. I mean, I really feel like this is probably one of the hardest places to sail. I know you've been to the Puget Sound and the Pacific Northwest, and I'm sure that has its challenges as well.
Yeah, there was some current up there too, but it was like you said, it was kind of like here. I mean, the current here was different than what I'm used to up in Oriental now, because I've been in Oriental for quite a while, and I kind of gotten used to that. And there's not much in the way of current, other than the river. But just getting here and getting off the dock, or coming back onto the dock today with the wind blowing me off the dock, it was a good challenge. I haven't done anything like that with the wind coming off the dock probably since San Diego.
Yeah, well, every day on the water you learn something, and I believe that. Even after 10 years of doing this day in and day out, if you're paying attention, you're going to learn something.
Yeah. So now that you've been here in Charleston for a while, are you planning on expanding anywhere else? Are you looking at making it bigger from the 12 boats?
That's a good question. We have a short down season, and the original owner did have a second location in Miami, and I dabbled down there the first few seasons. I was just taking one boat down, and I went down to the Bahamas a few times, down through the Keys and through Florida, and I was able to get customers from earlier in the season, or repeat customers, to come down there and do some more advanced level training. We're looking for a new market, and I think that the Virgin Islands, both the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, have kind of reached their saturation point But we're going to take a catamaran down to the Spanish Virgins this year and be based in Puerto Rico for a few months.
Just the one?
Just one. This season we're going to take one boat down. Next year I think we're going to look for some office space and potentially take maybe 2 cats, 2 monohulls, maybe start with a 3 or 4 boat fleet down there during their busy season, which is our off season. And you know, at least give it a go for a year or two and try it out. I know the hops down there are a little bit bigger. You know, most charter destinations, especially like Tortola, you know, it's shorter 3 to 5 mile hops. It's a little bit bigger sailing, but a lot of people who want a sailing vacation don't mind sailing 3 or 4 hours a day.
Right,
You're not doing any overnight passages or anything too crazy. So I'm excited to get down there and really learn about that area a little bit more. I've passed through it several times on deliveries, but I haven't had a chance to really cruise the Spanish Virgin. So we're going to get down there in early December and spend a couple weeks poking around and then start some charters up in January and February in 2018.
Oh, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you to take an ASA course or charter a boat or maybe buy a boat through your brokerage, how do they go about getting a hold of you?
Our website is charlestonsailingschool.com. You can also contact me through the Multihull company. Their corporate office is up in Philadelphia, but I do have an office here at the City Marina. We're downtown at the Charleston City Marina, so if you're ever down here, poke in, say hi.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks for the interview and thanks for the class. I did really enjoy it, at least I got a lot out of it, and it was a good time, man.
All right, looking forward to sailing with you guys again.
So Lisa and I really enjoyed the ASA 114 Cruising Catamarans course with Will Miller from Charleston Sailing School. I wanted to do the interview with him because I thought he had a great story, how he basically took a business from being an online website to now they have 12 boats, they run charters, ASA instruction, and he also is a broker for the Multihull company. We had a great time down there. If you guys are in the area looking for an ASA course or just charter a boat or maybe buy one, be sure to look him up. We'll see you guys next time.
Now I'm ready to see, I'm ready